She never meant to fall asleep on a stranger's shoulder, but when the plane touched down and she finally opened her eyes, Eleanor Vance, a woman who had spent her life in glass towers and boardrooms, found herself tearing up. Not out of embarrassment, but because of what the single dad sitting beside her had done while she slept. This isn't just a story about an awkward flight. It's a story about kindness, the kind that changes people, softens hearts, and reminds us that sometimes the people we least expect to meet are the ones who show us what really matters. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below if stories like this touch your heart. You're watching Your Channel Name, where we share real, powerful stories that remind us of the goodness still left in the world. It was a cold morning at Chicago O'Hare Airport. Flight 292 was boarding for Los Angeles. And in seat 14C sat Eleanor Vance, the 38-year-old CEO of a fast-growing tech company. Her assistant had booked her a last-minute flight after a week full of investor meetings and sleepless nights. She was exhausted, the kind of tired that coffee couldn't fix. Dressed in her signature navy power suit, her phone never left her hand. Emails, contracts, projections. Her whole life was lived through that glowing screen. To her, time was money, and small talk was a waste of both. As passengers shuffled in, Eleanor barely looked up, hoping the person next to her wouldn't talk much. Then came seat 14A, a man in his mid-30s with kind brown eyes, a few days' worth of stubble, and a little girl holding his hand. The girl couldn't have been older than 6. She had big, curly hair tied into pigtails and a pink unicorn backpack that looked almost bigger than she was. "Hi there," the man said, smiling as he helped his daughter settle by the window. "Sorry if she gets a little restless. It's a long flight." Eleanor gave a polite nod, her eyes still on her phone. "I'm Michael," he added, "and this is Chloe." The little girl gave a shy wave. Eleanor offered a faint smile and went back to her emails. But something about the way Michael gently adjusted his daughter's blanket caught her eye. It was tender, patient, the kind of love she rarely saw in her world of deadlines and deals. As the plane took off, Chloe fell asleep almost immediately, her head resting on her dad's arm. Michael looked out the window, lost in thought. He didn't touch his phone once. About an hour into the flight, the cabin lights dimmed. Eleanor felt her eyelids growing heavy. The hum of the engine was almost hypnotic. Before she knew it, she had drifted off, right onto Michael's shoulder. She woke up nearly 2 hours later, startled and embarrassed. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she whispered. Sitting upright, Michael chuckled softly. "No worries. You looked like you needed the rest." But then she noticed something. Her phone, which had been slipping from her lap when she fell asleep, was now plugged into a power bank that wasn't hers. I think this is your charge," she said. Michael smiled. "Yeah. Your battery was at 3%. Didn't want you waking up to a dead phone." Eleanor blinked, surprised. No one had ever done something so small, yet so kind, for her in years. "Thank you," she said quietly. They started talking after that, slowly at first, but then more easily. She learned that Michael was a single dad, raising Chloe on his own since his wife passed away 3 years earlier in a car accident. "She was the love of my life," he said, glancing at his daughter, sleeping peacefully beside him. "I still miss her every day. But Chloe, she's my reason to keep going." Eleanor listened, really listened. It had been so long since she'd had a conversation that wasn't about money or markets. She found herself opening up too, telling him how her work had consumed her life, how she hadn't seen her parents in months, and how success somehow felt emptier than she'd imagined. For the first time in a long time, Eleanor felt human. When the flight attendant came by with snacks, Michael ordered a juice box for Chloe and declined anything for himself. Eleanor noticed, later, when he went to the restroom, she quietly told the attendant to charge her credit card for their meals. When he returned, his tray table had a sandwich, chips, and a soda waiting. "I didn't order this," he said. Eleanor smiled. "Consider it my way of saying thanks for the charger and for sharing your story." He looked touched, maybe even a little embarrassed, but he nodded. "Thank you. That's really kind." As the flight went on, they talked about everything from raising kids to chasing dreams. Michael told her he was working 2 jobs, one at a hardware store and another delivering packages just to keep up with bills and Chloe's school tuition. "She loves her school," he said. "It's small but really good for her. I'll do whatever it takes to keep her there." Eleanor felt something tug inside her chest. Here was a man who had lost almost everything, but still radiated hope. She couldn't remember the last time she'd met someone so genuine. As they began their descent, Chloe woke up and stretched, rubbing her sleepy eyes. She looked at Eleanor and smiled. "Did you sleep good?" she asked innocently. Eleanor laughed softly. "I did. Thanks to your dad's shoulder." When the plane landed and passengers began gathering their bags, Michael thanked her again for the meal. "Hey," Eleanor said before they parted ways. "Do you have a business card or something?" Michael chuckled. "I'm afraid I don't have fancy cards like you," she smiled. "Write your number down then? Maybe I can send you something." He hesitated, then scribbled it on a napkin. "Sure, but you really don't have to. I want to," she said. They said goodbye at baggage claim, and as she watched him lift his daughter's small suitcase, something inside her shifted. The next morning, Eleanor couldn't stop thinking about Michael and Chloe. She sat in her office, surrounded by glass, steel, and silence, and realized how far she'd drifted from the things that really mattered. That afternoon, she made a call. 3 weeks later, Michael received a letter in the mail. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. "Dear Michael," it read, "I haven't stopped thinking about our flight. Your strength, love, and kindness touched me deeply. Enclosed is something that might help with Chloe's education. Please don't think of it as charity. Think of it as an investment in kindness in people like you who remind the rest of us what really matters. With gratitude, Eleanor Vance." The check was for $25,000, enough to pay Chloe's tuition for several years. Michael was speechless. He picked up his daughter and hugged her tight. "See, sweetheart, there really are good people out there." But that wasn't the end. Months later, Eleanor was speaking at a leadership conference in New York. When asked about the most important lesson she'd ever learned, she didn't mention business strategies or innovation. Instead, she told the story of a flight from Chicago to Los Angeles and how a single dad and his little girl reminded her that success means nothing without compassion. She ended her talk with these words: "Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, offering your shoulder, sharing a charger, or simply listening to someone's story can change more than a moment. They can change a life." The audience gave her a standing ovation, not because she was a powerful CEO, but because in that moment, she was simply human, open, vulnerable, and real. As she left the stage, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was Michael. "Just wanted to say thank you again." Chloe got her first report card. "Straight A's?" She says she wants to be a pilot someday. Eleanor smiled, tears welling in her eyes. Maybe kindness doesn't just ripple, maybe it takes flight. If this story touched your heart, take a moment today to do something kind for a stranger, for a friend, or even for yourself. You never know whose life you might be changing. Thank you for watching Your Channel Name, where every story reminds us kindness still matters. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that inspire hope and healing.